this Monday evening, the 1st of June 2020. You would know that ordinarily our briefs are on Tuesday, Thursday mornings, but we are having to start from tonight because this week we have a very packed schedule. His Excellency the President of the Republic last night addressed the nation with the 10th update of government's efforts in the COVID-19 response program. During that update, he announced and I'm going to use an expression that we'll come back to over and over again, and we'll explain that expression some more. He announced the easing of some of the restrictions that we currently live under. As you will recall, Ghana's borders from about the middle of March have been closed as a first line restriction or a first layer of protection for the Ghanaian population against the potential importation of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which causes the COVID-19 disease, or what they used to call the novel coronavirus. It's one of the restrictions we live under. That's the closure of our borders. The closure of our borders has not been adjusted. It is still in effect. We also have some other restrictions which by executive instrument we live under, including the total closure of schools, the total ban on religious activities, the total ban on large or mass gathering, among others. His Excellency the President eased about 3 or 4 of those restrictions only. There's a third layer of protection that we always talk about, which we describe as a personal preventive etiquette, which you have to do for yourself, or we all have to do for ourselves. Again, that has not been amended or adjusted in any way. So as we start tonight's conversation, we want to remind everybody that the President has not lifted the ban on several of the activities that he restricted. What he has done is to ease about 4 of those restrictions, not to lift them in totality, but to give just a bit more room as we begin the process of easing some restrictions. It's important to get the context right so that in how we describe it for people to understand and even for compliance, we're on the same page. Now this week, a number of ministers of state will join us to speak to what the easing means in their various sectors. Starting tonight is the minister responsible for chieftaincy and religious affairs. For the purposes of our presentation tonight, I will keep referring to him as the minister responsible for religious affairs. He would start off tonight's presentation with us, or the very first of these presentations, on the instruction of the President, explaining to us what the easing of restrictions on religious gatherings actually means, and subsequently answering our questions. As part of his presentation, or to augment his presentation, you would notice that the President mentioned there's a need to keep a register of the about 100 persons who will be the maximum allowed for any of these religious gatherings. There is technology to assist in the putting together, the verification, the eventual use, if need be, of such a register. The minister responsible for communications, Dr. Esla Owusu Ekufu, will join us to augment the presentation by explaining to us which technology this is and how all of us who need to use that technology can access it. There are some specific matters that deal with science, the science behind some of the limits, for example, the 1 hour, the 100, etc. The Presidential Advisor Health, Dr. Nsiasari, is with us. He will help us speak to some of us. And we have some of the representatives of some religious bodies here who are here with us and will give some feedback whether indeed they believe they can or they cannot operate within the guidelines that have been outlined. And so tonight we have about 4 parts to our brief, which I'll be sharing with you. As I mentioned earlier, the Honorable Minister, the Honorable Kofi Jamesi is here. He will join me shortly. The Honorable Esla Owusu Ekufu will join us on the technology bit. Dr. Nsiasari will speak to us on a bit of the science, and Reverend Professor Frimpong Manso, General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God, will also join us with some comment. We keep reminding our colleagues back home to observe the etiquette that has been put out, including the social distancing, the use of water and soap to wash your hands, sanitizers. And you will notice that the notice on our podium, as we are beginning to ease some of the restrictions, has changed. The notice on our podium tonight and throughout this week and in the coming weeks will be reading, stay alert. Stay alert. We need everybody, as we ease it more, to stay alert and be up to our collective responsibilities. So, Honorable Minister for Religious Affairs, please join us in your presentation on what this means, easing of restrictions for religious gatherings.
Honorable Minister of Information, Honorable Minister for Communication, Special Advisor to the President, church leaders, Muslim leaders, all other religions represented here, directors, the media, ladies and gentlemen. The President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in his broadcast to the nation on 30th May 2020, announced a further restriction pertaining to the COVID-19 phenomenon. This briefing is to indicate further measures to be followed in addition to the already announced protocols to be observed by all. The Christian, Muslim communities and all other religions are to observe the following strictly. Some Christian bodies worship on Saturdays and others on Sundays. The Muslim communities generally observe worship on Fridays. With effect from Friday, 5th June, the government will begin stage 1 of the process of easing restrictions, and a format for religious services can commence, and all worshippers entreated to dedicate their first service for the prayer for the nation in this challenging time. 25% attendance with a maximum number of 100 congregants can worship at a time in a church or in a mosque with a mandatory 1 meter rule or 3 feet of social distancing between congregants. In addition, all congregants must wear masks at all times, wash hands with soap and running water, or rub with alcohol-based hand sanitizer before entry. Avoid handshaking or body contact. Register details including phone numbers, manually or digitally. Digital registration can be done on GH COVID-19 app, on Panabio's app, which can be downloaded at no cost. And this is the one that the Minister of Education will speak about. General specific protocols for churches. Churches must ensure these protocols are observed strictly. Thermometer guns or thermal scanners are provided for checking the temperature of congregants at entry points of all venues as necessary. Ensure no mask, no entry policy. 3. Provision of hand washing facilities with running water and soap and or FDA approved alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Provision of adequate waste management facilities, bins, cans, bin liners, and single-use tissues. Provision of adequate toilet facilities for use by members. Regular cleaning and disinfection of frequently used communal places like toilet surfaces and frequently touched surfaces such as doorknobs or handles, preferably every 1 to 2 hours depending on the rate of utilization. designate a holding room or area where a person who becomes sick at the premises or at an event can be isolated from others while making arrangements for evacuation. Regular disinfection of venues used by churches, preferably once every month. For example, fumigation and disinfection must be carried out with a very recognized entities. Train cleaners with the necessary personal protective equipment and cleaning items to clean the facilities regularly and handle waste appropriately. Provide adequate ventilation, that is, open windows to allow for maximum circulation of fresh air. If possible, avoid confined air-conditioned rooms. Display approved health promotion materials on COVID-19 at vantage points to remind congregants to keep to social distancing protocols, wearing of the mask, regular hand washing, coughing and sneezing etiquette. Ensure a no handshake, no hugging and no spitting policy at all times. Follow established evacuation procedures as outlined in Annex 1 to enable evacuation if a congregant becomes sick during the event and has to be evacuated. Form COVID task force comprising of members who are preferably health workers. They must be trained in health promoting prevention measures, infection prevention and control, and evacuation procedures by Ghana Health Service. The COVID task force should call 112 or 311 for support to enable evacuation if anyone develops fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing during service. Unwell persons are not allowed to attend church. Older persons and people of any age with underlying medical conditions, heart diseases, diabetes, liver disease, and asthma are advised to stay away from church service. Sharing personal items such as watches, jewelry, pens, and phones should be discouraged. If an individual is confirmed positive for COVID-19, all contacts must be traced and screened. No crowd dancing and waving of handkerchiefs during church services. I hope it's clear. Sanitize microphones immediately after each use. All who speak and sing in churches, including pastors, Sunday school teachers, singers, and announcers, must wear face masks during service. Discourage singing in groups. Pre-recorded songs or solos should be used. Pre-packaged communion bread and wine should be picked up by members at the point of entry. Pre-packaged communion bread and wine should be picked up by members at the point of entry. Place offering bowls at the entrance and exit points for members to give offerings and tithes when entering or on their way out of church premises. Encourage cash transfers via mobile money or mobile banking as forms of giving offerings. In observance of social distancing protocols, laying on of hands should not be allowed. Spend at least 5 minutes of church service time to educate church members on COVID-19. Provide separate sitting areas for the aged and for families that are together. The church is encouraged to mobilize resources to help individuals in need, including offering health facilities. General specific protocols for mosque. Mosque leaders must ensure that these protocols are observed. Thermometer guns or thermal scanners must be provided for checking the temperature of members at entry points of all venues as necessary. Ensure a no mask, no entry policy. Provision of hand washing facilities with running water and soap and or FDA approved alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Provision of adequate waste management facilities. Provision of adequate toilet facilities for use by members. Regular cleaning and disinfection of frequently used communal places like bathroom and toilet surfaces and frequent touch surfaces such as doorknobs, handles, preferably every 1 to 2 hours depending on the rate of utilization. Designate a holding room or area where a person who becomes sick at the premises can be isolated from others while making arrangements for evacuation. Regular disinfection of venues. Use once a gathering, preferably once every month. Professional cleaners with the necessary protective equipment and cleaning items to clean the facilities regularly and handle waste appropriately. Provide adequate ventilation, that is, open windows to allow for the maximum circulation of fresh air. If possible, avoid confined air-conditioned rooms. Display approved health promotion materials on COVID-19 at vantage points to remind people to keep to social distancing protocols, wearing of masks, regular hand washing, coughing, and sneezing etiquette. Ensure a no handshake, no hugging, and no spit policy at all times. Follow established evacuation procedures to enable evacuation of a participant if a participant becomes sick during the event has to be evacuated. Form COVID task force comprising of members who are preferably health workers. They must be trained in health promotive prevention measures, infection prevention and control, and evacuation procedures by Ghana Health Service. The COVID task force should call 112 or 31 for support to enable evacuation if anyone develops fever, cough, and difficulty breathing during the gathering. Unwell persons are not allowed to attend mosques. Old persons and people of any age with underlying medical conditions, heart diseases, diabetes, liver disease, and asthma are advised to stay away from going to mosque. Sharing personal items such as watches, jewelry, pens, and phones should be discouraged. If an individual is confirmed positive for COVID-19, all contacts must be traced and screened. Ensure each worshipper uses their personal mask, sajada, or disinfected mask provided by the mosque before and after use. Ablution should be performed in the house by adherents before entering the mosque. Use easily removable footwear such as slippers. Allow people to come out of the mosque to collect slippers one after the other instead of crowding at the entrance. Put a bowl at the entrance of the mosque, the offering of fisabidali. Sanitize microphones immediately after each use. Spend at least 5 minutes of worship time to educate mosque attendees on COVID-19. All other religious organizations, including traditional religions, should follow the general safety protocols. Enforcement. Self-regulation is through churches, mosques, and all other religious organizations. But the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, local government, in collaboration with Ghana Health Service officials, shall take enforcement responsibilities. Where necessary, the state security services shall ensure enforcement of these protocols. There will be random enforcement checks to ensure compliance. A church or mosque or other religious bodies that violate the laid down protocols will be dealt with appropriately. A church, mosque, or other religious organizations in violation could be closed down. The leaders in charge will equally be held liable. The district assemblies and monitoring teams are on hand to ensure compliance with the directives. Every church or religious body must be registered with the Registrar General and their church or worship premises registered with the appropriate municipal, metropolitan, or district assemblies. Monitoring and evaluation. The Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, local government, in collaboration with health officials, will continue to monitor and evaluate key indicators to establish the transmission levels of the virus. The approach will include benchmarking and rapid learning to inform decision-making and tactical adaptations to the overall strategy and hotspot specifics. Contingency outbursts. If there is an unexpected outburst in infections within a public event or community, God has put health workers and the security services, including the police service and the armed forces, on standby to coordinate rapid response of human resource and logistics, and if necessary, to cordon off, impose a curfew, trace, test, treat infected persons in the affected community. Digital technology. Digital technology will be used to complement tracing, testing, and treating, as well as monitoring of indicators. Annex 1. Evacuation procedures. Actions to be taken when dealing with a sick person. Obtain the person's details: name, organization, contact person, immediate family member details, including a phone number. Inform the sick person that they will be separated or isolated due to symptoms. Minimize contact between the sick person and all other persons and direct to the pre-designated holding room. The sick person must always wear a face mask and observe social distancing at all times. Organizers of the COVID task force must call 112 or 311 or link up with local district health authorities for immediate evacuation or medical help. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, thank you for taking us through the guidelines for the easing of restrictions for religious gatherings. As I mentioned, colleagues, throughout this week, various ministers of state will be joining us with the details of their guidelines as well, and we'll be taking your questions. Now, as he mentioned, the keeping of the register is an important part of this, and there's technology that is available to assist event organizers, particularly mosques and churches that desire to use that kind of platform to make their work easy. I want to invite the Honorable Minister for Communications, the Honorable Esla Osu Ekofo, to speak to the subject of technology available to assist this purpose. Honorable Minister.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mine is a very short task. As we know, we need to find a way to monitor compliance with the 25% or 100 people maximum limit that is allowable, permissible for attendance in churches, conferences, funerals, mosques, and other events during this period that the restrictions have been slightly eased. We believe that with technology we can help ourselves and help our members also stay compliant. We have developed an app which would help us monitor, help us stay compliant with all of these. It's called the PANA BIOS app. It's a short form of Pan-African Biosecurity, Biosurveillance app. And we're trialing out Ghana, and hopefully to be rolled out in the rest of the continent, since we're working in unison with the African Union and a group known as the Afro Champions, a group of African corporate giants. Let me just put it that way. This application would also be available by a link to the COVID-19 tracker app, which we have already launched and which is already in use. Now, briefly speaking, event organizers would have to download the application and register the event and the venue that the event is taking place. For events which host multiple, for venues which hold multiple events, they can even number it, event number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So people can also download this app and pre-book that I want to attend event 3 or at such and such a time. Now, if the first event is oversubscribed, they automatically would move you to the next one and send you a notification that you're attending the second or third service on this third Sunday of the month, so you can also plan. For large churches that already have known attendees and have known registers, they can use their own processes but provide the information when required by Ghana Health Service. Now, the importance of keeping track of everybody who attends every function at your meeting should be obvious to all of us. In the event that there is an outbreak at a particular venue at a particular time, the contact tracing team would need to know everybody who was at that venue at that time, so that it would ease the tracing and testing and treatment of those who may have contracted the illness. So for our collective peace of mind, every event, every venue needs to keep an accurate register of everyone who attends those functions, so that when need be, you can provide that information to the health authorities and they can help others. Once the venue is registered, a QR code will be generated with a passcode as well. It will also be USSD compliant. So even for those who do not have smartphones, you can also use *769# to call in, dial in, and book for the event if you know the passcode for that event already. So you can just indicate that I'm booking for this passcode or for this event at such and such a time, and follow the prompts and be registered. Where this should be available within the next 48 hours, 48 to 72 hours. They're currently working on it as I speak. So if you go to the App Store now and you try to download it, you will not find it. We're working with the technical people to ensure that it is available latest by Thursday for download, either on the MOC website, on the Transcorp website, on the Ministry of Information website. MOC is Ministry of Communications website, Ministry of Information website, Ghana Health Service website, Transcorp website, on the GH COVID-19 app. And hopefully by Thursday it will be available for download on both Google Play, and App Store. I'm still working with the technical people, so I cannot confirm its availability for download from the App Store or Google Play at this time. But by Thursday, it will be available for download on all these websites and on the GH COVID-19 Tracker app. That is the Panabios app. We hope that you would all stay compliant, work with us so that we all help each other. Now, the fields that will be required to be filled in when you register on the app would be your name, your age, your sex, your telephone number, your digital address. That will all be required and will be mandatory. Hope that the religious organizations can also help members who do not have smartphones, who have not registered for their digital addresses, to also generate their digital addresses to help facilitate their easy location in the event of an incident occurring. We are all praying that no such incident will occur in any of our public gatherings. However, we can't be too careful, and there's nothing wrong with being prepared in the event of any eventuality occurring. So in a nutshell, these are the measures that we're putting in place. The link on the GH COVID-19 Tracker app, which will lead you to download this meeting management system that we're putting in place. If any church, any establishment has any existing way of registering their members and providing an accurate, updated information on attendance at any of their functions, they're free to use that. However, they must ensure that everybody who attends that service is registered and their details recorded in the event that it may be required in there if any outbreak occurs in that establishment. And once the QR code is generated and you have a smartphone, if you log into the app on your device as well, a code is also generated which you can just scan on the code at the event venue, and it locks you in automatically, and everybody knows that you're locked in. For many of those who've attended international conferences, similar registration, technical electronic registration procedures are required. So your event ID card itself has a QR code on it or is chip embedded. So every time you enter the location and you swipe it, your details are logged in automatically. This is our attempt to also generate a similar system to assist all events organizers with a similar process. But as I've indicated, the importance of registering every member who attends every session is to provide an accurate record of attendees when required by the Ghana Health Service. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, thank you for that, may I use the word augmentation, on how, the word augmentation, on how, or an augmentation to Honorable Minister responsible for religious affairs put out, on how we can use platforms in general, but specifically this particular platform, to make it easier to and make available a register. Colleagues, we'd like to inform you that overnight, on the Ministry of Information website and social media handles, we will be publishing these guidelines that have been announced so that the religious community, etc., can pick it up, and you, our colleagues in the media, you can also pick it and amplify it on your mass media platforms. You've been very helpful so far. We once again call on you to help us to pick the guidelines. We'll put them out overnight on the Ministry of Information website and social media handles, and then you can amplify them some more for us. Now, ahead of tonight's press briefing, we got a number of queries asking about why 100, why 1 hour. I very quickly want to invite Dr. Nsiansari, give him a couple of minutes to speak to those two matters. Why 100? Why 1? Why didn't you say 1.5 hours? Why didn't you say 45 minutes? Why 1 hour? Is there any science or something behind it, or is there a number that we just come up with? So please join us, help us to understand why 100, not 150, not 130, not 200, why 1 hour, why these parameters that you are given. And then after that, I'll take questions. Please join us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. As you all are aware, we in Ghana, we have studied what other countries are doing in the easy. So we decided to embark on a strategic, controlled, progressive, safe easing of the ban on gatherings to get our lives, both religious lives, social lives, economic life, back to normal. So we decided on an abridged form of service. And this abridged form of service, you say 25% of attendance. But maximum number of people who be in attendance for any service will be 100. The reason being that if you say 25% of attendance in this room, and you say also 100, I'm sure people who will sit in this room will be less than 100. So if the people are less than 100, so I'll bring 100 people to fill this room. In addition, we said there will be a mandatory 1 meter social or physical distancing. So all what we are trying to do is to make sure that we observe the social distancing within a confined environment. So if you have a very small room, what it means is not 100. You don't say that because the room that I'm using is small, so I'm going to put 100 people in the room because it's 100. That's why we say 25% of your total attendance. If you have a room which takes about 10,000 people, and you say 20% of the 10,000 is 2,000 what? 500. So we don't want a lot of people at the same place at the same time, confined environment. The risk is very high if you put a lot of people in an enclosed environment for a longer time. The virus will be around the days, especially if you have air-conditioned, cold, dry environment. That's why we also said that as much as possible, the room that you want to do your service, if possible, put off the air conditions and open the window for free flow air. So the question of 25% I have explained. The question of 100 maximum congregants I also explained, so that we don't put a lot of room within a same environment. And the timing is also very important. If you sit in an enclosed environment with 100 or a number of people within the environment for more than 1 hour, the chances of acquiring somebody is positive, and then infecting people in the room is very high. So it's a profile, the risk profile is that what we have done, that you don't infect people unnecessarily. Secondly, we don't want so many people at a time, so that it becomes difficult to, if you are doing contact tracing. Because if you have a lot of people, say 2,500, it means you have to go back after the registration the Honorable Minister talk about, because we register all people, we register their names, their contacts of all the worshippers. It will be easier contact tracing them and also knowing where they are. In addition to the hand washing, hand sanitizers, and also maximum duration of 1 hour. If you put all these things together, the number of the people in the room, making sure the room is airy and free flow of air, then we'll be reducing the rate of infection, and the profile of the people can easily be found so that we can trace them at any time. So that is the science behind it. We didn't choose a 1 hour arbitrary, we didn't choose 100 maximum arbitrary, but we look at what's happening in other countries. And this, as I said, this is a strategic, controlled, progressive easing. We don't want to come and then go and hit the wall and then come back, as it's happening in some other countries, where after the easing, people started going to church, and they say about 100 people, 200 people have become infected. So that's the reason why these numbers have been chosen. After all, for the past weeks, we have not been going to church at all. We don't even have one congregant in the church. But now we are giving 25% or maximum 100 people. So what our advice is that if you can agree to do a lot of services a day, and please make use of your associate pastors. It's a time for associate pastors to also participate in church service. And like I'm a surgeon, sometimes when you go to theater, stand there and operate, you have to finish operating the people before you leave. Sometimes from 6 a.m. to about 12 midnight. The same thing on Sunday as a pastor. When you go there, it's the job that is a profession as well as vocation. So you can do a series services. You do 1 hour service, you close, your associate pastor will, after 30 minutes after cleaning the chairs, and he will do another service, you will come. So by the time you finish, if you have 2,000 or 3,000 people, you will finish the church service. And you can also do service every day. So we heard that people are saying that the church service is only for Sunday. It is not true. You can do church service so far as you abide by maximum 100 or 25% of your attendance, so far as you have 1 meter social or physical distancing, and then you have all the necessary things in place. But in all situations, you should be in mask. Even when you are singing, be in mask. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take questions at this point in time. Colleagues, if you have questions, give me a wave. I invite you to the podium. The regular specs have their hands up. Yes, Kujo. Are there other questions? Yes, sir. That looks like a reverend minister, but I can't make him out because of his mask. Because I see a collar down there. Yes, sir. Are you joining us? Okay, please do. Kojo, let's start. I'll come to you, Reverend. I'll come to you.
I'm Kojo from CTTV. I just want to find out that we have mega churches in the country who have multiple facilities to hold different groups of church members. So restriction is that they shouldn't have more than 100 church members. So for example, if I go to a church like the Action Chapel where there are multiple facilities to hold 100 each of the worshippers, are they also allowed to, are they breaching the laws? I didn't find out.
So can you have different groups of 100
church members,
different facilities
on the same church premises?
Yes, I just want to narrow down your question is, can you have different groups of 100 persons in different facilities on the same church compound?
Yes, please.
The question. We'll get you an answer.
My name is Eric No, and I work with StackFM. I have a number of questions. I'm hoping I'll get the opportunity to ask all of them. So, the religious minister mentioned a number of guidelines. Amongst other things, he mentioned the setting up of a COVID task force in the churches and all of these guidelines. One thing I want to know is that, are all of these guidelines going to be made law? That's one thing that I want to know. Going to be made law such that it will be enshrined in the EIs that have been governing all the things we've been doing as a country.
So the question is, will we give legal backing to all the guidelines that have been announced tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
The second question is, with all of the guidelines that have been announced, are churches expected to meet all the guidelines before they can reopen when, as and when the president has announced? Then I'll move to the issue of what Dr. Siansari said, that churches can go on every day as far as it's 100 people and they are meeting the social distancing and all that. The president mentioned that the security agencies and all other groups are going to ensure that this is done. The question is, wouldn't this be a little more difficult to monitor as compared to when the churches shut down? Because as of now, right from when churches can begin to open, from Monday to Sunday, we can have churches operating, and we need police service personnel, military and others to be going around to check that all of these guidelines are being observed.
So your question is, won't this be more difficult to monitor rather than shut down the churches?
And finally, what sort of feedback has the minister, the religious affairs minister, received from churches and the church leaders in terms of respecting these guidelines that have been added. Thanks.
Okay, so let me just do some adjustment here. Colleagues, we need to understand that what we are discussing is for religious gatherings, not just churches. So the questions and the discussion applies to churches as it applies to mosques. Just so that we are talking about, and not just churches and mosques, but all kinds of religious gatherings, Hindus, and everything else. Adam, you have a question?
Good evening, Honorable.
Yes, sir.
Your friend have been negotiating me at Adam FM. No, my question is say, so far, no government and I say because I can more data of all churches in the country. Bubi who say, I sorry we will Fadama and I say or Zoom and I say so that Mubiti me a monitor when I say and yes, share buying their boy Omuna Mudiso. Now, mobile call round, I say, Obia meeting as Diana say, Yan Sana, Mama start activities and I say,
okay, so how will we monitor? Can we first monitor, make sure it will be at standards? Okay, all right. So I'm going to invite colleagues to respond. Let me just do a distribution. Honorable Minister, you take, Honorable Minister for Religious Affairs, you take the question on, will we allow groups of 100 in different buildings on the same parcel of land or the same church premises? There's a second question of whether we intend to give legal backing to all the guidelines that you have announced tonight. The third question is, must a religious body meet all of these guidelines, or can they choose some, or are some more important than others? The number of religious leaders who are here with us, and the question about feedback from churches is best directed to them. Reverend Professor Fimpomanso, I will come back to you. Will the religious leaders make of these prescriptions by government? There's a question that one I think I can answer quickly for us to move on. Won't this be more difficult to monitor rather than shut all the churches down? Yes, it will be more difficult than that. But in the business of doing difficult things, we just can't say that because it will be more difficult, we're going to shy away from it. So yes, the easiest to do is to shut everything down. But we cannot afford to do that as a country that has aspirations in various areas. And so we have to move forward and do the difficult things that move us forward as a country. And then the key question, Honorable Minister, I'll come back to you. And the FSO, I say, in so any masarachini in Kenya, and we omodi so ye be moma isana ya moma kwaso ya naso omo ye no kwan be ne be fa so mo mediso ye nim say district assemblies no assembly bi anim nsori ne masara ne ma wo ba kwan be na ye fa so aye monitoring no. So maybe just to quick, Professor Fimpomanso, please join me with yours. Let's get out of the way and we'll deal with the others.
Can I get it again about
what is the disposition of the religious community to the guidelines that government has announced?
Thank you very much. The disposition and the enforcement. We, the religious leaders, first of all, do appreciate the President and his team for giving us the opportunity to reopen and to start. From day one, we have been involved with the government and his team on the processes. And so things that have come to us have not come as a surprise. We are fully prepared and we've put things in place to make sure that we're able to do that. I have my senior brother here, Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo, the NAC, the Christian Council, Catholic Secretary. All of us have worked as a team. We've advised one another. We have started our procurement procedures. We've started our data gathering, and we are really on top of events. Let me say something. Many times when it comes to the church, people think they're the most unorganized institution in the country, unfortunately. But we have organized, started schools like Wesley College, which I attended, West High School, Fancy Pim, and all these schools. And we look at these schools, we've got you hospitals and everything. And we train you for you to go up and you think that the church leaders are the most unorganized people. I tell you, this is very, very funny. We are well prepared, we are organized, and we are going to deliver. We have started internal mechanism, way of monitoring one another. And like I have already told the minister, and my colleagues know that, if any church does not comply, we will give that church out before even the team from the minister or his institute comes in, and we will have the right to close down that church, and we will make sure that that church follows the rigors of law. Let me say that no church leader is going to plead for any pastor who disobeys the rules. No church leader is going to mediate for anyone. This is life and death matter, and all of us to fight this battle. In fact, I have analyzed this thing in 3, all the long things that were read. So my church, my colleagues will pick it. No face masks, no entry. It covers a lot. The second is observe social distance. That covers all the number and everything. And the third one is this. Come on, the word is gone, but I have it. Ethics, protocol, all the hygienic things, social ethics and protocol, washing of hands, blah blah blah. So if you group into 3, no face masks, no entry, observe social distances, and all the social protocols, put them together, make sure hand washing and everything, it covers all. And Minister, we are assuring you, we will not fail you, but as a light and salt of the community, we will help to make sure that this COVID is nipped to the bud. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Professor, for those assurances. Honorable Minister for Religious Affairs, you have enough questions to answer. Those were the second batch of questions. If you can indicate, we'll add you to the microphone.
Thank you, Minister for Information. The first question is whether a church can have a group of 100, different groups of 100 in a particular church area. It is the 100 in a building. So, for example, if you have, let's say, an enclosement, let's say 5 or 6 enclosures in a particular church area, then of course, and it can contain the 100 and keep the social distancing. But not that you have very big place and you want that inside that place you're going to have 100. I think it's clear. So what we are saying is, in a particular area where you have, let's take Assemblies of God. Maybe you have 3 or 4 church buildings in that area. Okay, in each of the church buildings, you can have 100 people there by keeping the protocols. But not that you have, let's say, a very big place, Paris Dome, where it's 10,000, and you want to have 100 within the Paris Dome. No. That means wherever it is one enclosure, you have only 100 people. That is, I think it's understood. Then, data on all churches. No, Obeka Drino. And he said, every church, you see, and so we register or registrar general. And I feel so premises, and so we register our district assembly, our metropolitan and municipal assembly. Send a beya. So your weddings, any outdoor senior and the district assembly who say who ye be or honor. It is a register with church, district assembly what not just a church, it doesn't exist. Who ye be or honor district nearby any emrano a beto. And I debut.
Are we giving legal backing to all the guidelines?
For now, these are the guidelines for keeping the COVID-19 at stake. It is a process, and as we move on, we'll see exactly what we want to do with these guidelines. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, it's already 8 o'clock. We'll take a final batch of questions. And then, so I think this is the last question we have here, and then I'll go to Reverend. I think Reverend has a question or something to ask. Yes, sir. Introduce yourself, sir.
Okay, thank you very very much. My name is Bismarck from RadioGoodLife.com. Honorable Minister,
You're speaking a bit too fast. Take your time. Bismarck Opon from
Radio Good.
Radio Gold. Go ahead.
Yeah. Please, I would like to ask. Come for it. Oh, okay. Is that okay?
Yes, okay.
Very well. Please, I would like to ask, what other sanctions are there for churches who may go against the laid down protocols apart from closing them down?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Beyond closing down, are there any other potential sanctions?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I saw some of you murmuring when he said he's from Radio Go. They are transmitting online. Yes, so there's nothing wrong with that. Reverend, I think you have a question or something you want to ask? Okay, so please. Please do introduce yourself for the benefit of those who may not know you.
Thank you very much. I'm Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabena-Boafo, the chairman of the Christ Council and the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church, Ghana. To seek clarification on the registration aspect. As he put it, I think it may create some confusion in the districts. Now, if the communicable bodies are asked to handle that aspect of the registration, because for all the bodies, we know where the churches are. At the moment, if we should add that to it, district assemblies might be chasing these churches and might create confusion for now. So if we can leave that with the communicable bodies, and those who are not registered, we ensure that they are registered so that we don't create any confusion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let the Honorable Minister take that under advisement. Honorable Minister, there is one more question that I would like to share with you. What happens to children's service? What happens to children's service? Our colleagues in education are giving us an explanation for the reason they are not letting the children and the toddlers go to school. But we haven't heard anything about children's service, the religious area. So please take that question and then also take the question of, are there any other sanctions beyond closing them down? Please take these two for us and then wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. All Sunday schools and church services are not allowed. They are not allowed because the children, it will be very difficult for them to keep the social distancing and so forth. So Sunday schools and children's services are not allowed. And what other sanctions apart from closing down the churches? Well, the pastors or the owners of that church will also be held liable for breaking the guidelines. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. rather, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we'll reconvene. The Honorable Minister responsible for education will join us with the guidelines for the reopening of schools for final year students to go and participate in their examinations. He will join us at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you for your attendance this evening. As I mentioned, overnight, the Ministry of Information website and social media handles will publish this first of guidelines as have been explained to us. We thank you so much for your support. God be with you.